Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly meeting. For those of you that don't know me, my name is War Morales, and I am a graduate of the program, completed the program back in 2021. And since then, my wife and I have been doing real estate full time and loving it out here in Hawaii. Kind of turn on my name tag real quick and my little slides that I'm trying out for the first time. They're just working a second ago, but all of a sudden, now that we're live, it's not working. For those of you that are not familiar with this Zoom application, there's some apps that you can incorporate into it. And so you can put words on the screen, but for some reasons, now that I've admitted everyone into the group, it's not working. But it's all good. Going to continue to roll with it. So yeah, my wife and I are out here in Hawaii doing real estate. Things are going good. Really enjoyed my time in the program, and I decided to stick around with the program to help everyone bridge going from active duty to doing real estate, because it can be a little bit of a big shift in your daily life. So I just went to this real estate investing conference last week. Has anyone heard of the Bigger Pockets podcast? So Better Life. Thanks for shaking your head, Chris. Appreciate it. It's always good to get some kind of reaction from the audience. But yes, I went to that conference. It's the Better Life conference, put on by Brandon Turner. And they had a bunch of speakers talking about different real estate investing related topics. And one topic that kind of stood out to me and inspired me to talk about what I'm going to be talking about today and for the next few times that we meet, was actually the current host. I'm blanking on his name now that I'm thinking of it, but the current host that hosts the Better Pockets or Bigger Pockets podcast. He talked about real estate investing architecture, and so his idea, like general thing, was he had a pyramid. Where at the bottom of the pyramid, like really conservative types of real estate investments, like single family homes, multifamily homes, stuff like that, and then building it up to, and so at the bottom, low risk, relatively decent return, and then at the top of the pyramid, high risk, high return type of investments. But just that idea of having an architecture to your real estate investing kind of made me think about having architecture to your daily routine. And I don't know about you guys, but when I was first getting out of the military, because of the environment, because of the culture that I got out from during that time, during COVID, I was kind of wanting to rebel a little bit from the structure, from the mandates, from all that stuff. But I ended up realizing pretty quickly that it's very beneficial to have some kind of routine to your daily schedule because routines work. And so the way I'm tying this into that whole pyramid idea is that there's so many different ways, just like with real estate investing, there's so many different ways to invest in real estate. Same applies with having a schedule. There's so many different ways to shape it. Because at first I was thinking about talking about line by line what my schedule looks like so that you guys can have an idea of something, of a way to structure your schedule. If you're kind of in a limbo right now, figuring out how to structure your schedule, going from being told how to structure it to structuring it on your own. And so, yeah, just wanted to talk about that there's so many different ways to structure your schedule and to inspire you guys to figure out what works best for you. So how many people think that having a routine works? Got a good show of hands. Thank you. And so you just looking at the military, it's like if you think about the military, if the military didn't have any kind of routine to what they do, it would just be a complete mess. Because I'm sure you've showed up to work a few times when there wasn't any kind of schedule, and you're just like, clearly nobody prepared for this event that we're doing right now, and it's a mess. Or you showed up and it was like line by line, in detail, who's doing what at what time, who's getting what supplies from where, who's ensuring that those supplies arrive on time, who's
It's 8:05.
who's the backup to ensure that those, all so on and so forth. And so when there's a routine or there's some kind of structure in place for that schedule, and you can see it unfold. Same thing applies in the business world. There's meetings, there's a plan for the meeting, there's somebody who's planned to run that meeting, so on and so forth. And even in personal life, I don't have children, but I've heard from lots of people, like when you have that child, when it's first born, as soon as you're able to get that child on a daily schedule and a routine, your life will go back to normal. You can have a decent night's rest and have some kind of sanity back in your life once that routine is in place. So those are just a few items, a few areas where it's kind of proven that having some sort of routine is very beneficial. And a metaphor that comes to mind when thinking about the power of a routine, even as basic as it might be, is if you think of like Grand Canyon or like somewhere where there's erosion. I've seen, like, a lot of times I've seen these types of metaphors with rocks, like a very slow drip or like concrete on a house. When I'm doing my video showings, if there's like a slow, very slow drip, even just periodically when it rains, there'll be like a rut of water like running through rock. And so if you think water, soft, not really much, not very impactful, and rock, which is solid, very, like if you try to smash your hand against a rock, it's not going to be pretty. But over time, that water just routinely hitting that rock, it puts a deep rut in that rock. And it's kind of the same thing with your approach to life. If you have a very steady approach to how you do things, even if it's not super, you hear people talking about taking massive action, which is cool. But if that's not really your thing, if you're just taking a daily, writing one letter a day to leads that you have or friends and family, just one letter, just one small 5-minute note every day. After a year, that's 365. If you do one per week, which, 5, 10 minutes out of your week to just write one note and address it and put the stamp on it and send it to a relative or a friend, that's 52 weeks, right? In a year. So that's 52 letters. And so you get to the end of the year and you think about that, that's a pretty powerful thing you can do just by taking that small action on a daily basis. Um, and the quote that came to mind when I was thinking about this was, "You are what you repeatedly do." That quote is often attributed to Aristotle. I'm not exactly sure if that's who actually said it, but according to Google, somebody else said it. But you are what you repeatedly do. So if you apply that to like really any kind of idea, good or bad, it definitely makes sense. So if you repeatedly eat McDonald's, you're probably not going to be very healthy. If you repeatedly work out every morning, your life will probably be a lot healthier than it would be if you didn't. And so that's just something to think about. And so I wanted to challenge you guys with some homework. So instead of me going line by line, all right, night before is where my morning starts. I go to bed at this time. I put a nose strip on so I can breathe better, all that stuff. So instead of me line by line giving you my example of what my daily routine looks like, which I will probably in part 2 or 3 of this series, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to whatever comes to your mind on structuring your schedule to lay that out, and wanted to pick 5 people from the group to talk about it the next time we meet. And we'll probably do like 1 or 2 during every meeting, just so it's not kind of becomes boring after hearing a few people talk about their things. Kind of like you guys are getting bored watching me flap my gums. But so I wanted to challenge 5 people, 5 volunteers right now, and then we can always take more volunteers and in future phases. But just to talk about what your routine is, because for me, the reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't know everything. I have a way of doing things that works for me, and it could work for you too. But you guys probably have things that you do in your daily routine that I could learn from. I'm 34 years old. There's people in here that are older and younger, and I'm very well could learn plenty from people that are both older and younger than me. just a random thing that comes to mind on that topic. One of my friends that got out of the army like 5 years before I got out of the Marine Corps, we joined the military at the same time, and he kind of went down this like hippie route. And one of the times we were hanging out, he was telling me how he doesn't shampoo his hair anymore. And at first, I thought that was a little weird, kind of gross too. But after thinking about it and now trying it out, I only shampoo my hair maybe once every month or every couple months. I still wash my hair with water and like scrub it pretty thoroughly. But hearing that idea from him and his reasons why, I figured I'd give it a shot because it seemed to be working for him, and actually really enjoyed not shampooing my hair every single day. Um, so that's just one random example of something that an idea you might hear from me, from anyone else who decides to present, and it could drastically improve your life, your health, your routine. So that being said, who wants to volunteer? You can raise your hand on the reactions. You can drop in the chat box. You can unmute yourself. And I'm just going to take down the list of folks so we can start presenting. All right, got our first one, Chris Wolfram. Thank you, Chris. Brandon Duffy said he'll go after Chris. Chris, do you have any, I might have already asked you this, do you have any relation to the Wolfram Company?
I don't. I wish I did.
I always loved using the wolfram.com, or is it called Wolfram? I think
Uh,
so.
I think there was another name for it. I always got that asked. I was always asked that question in college.
Okay, good stuff. All right. Brandon Duffy, anyone else? Three more volunteers. Lonnie Moon, do you want to tell us about your schedule?
Today?
All right, now
Or
in the
yeah, I
future
can do
class.
that.
Sweet. Thank you. And then Carlos said he'll go after. Thank you, Carlos. And Andrea. Is Andrea Camarena? I think so. All right. Thank you, Andrea. All right. And I'm purposely leaving this guidance vague so that you guys can, there's no pressure to like put together some 30-minute presentation, because it's probably just going to be like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it is you feel is an effective amount of time to describe your schedule, and like highlight the things that are powerful, that you really benefit, and are very concrete parts of your schedule that you'd recommend to others. You can also include items that you're um, wanting to restructure, but kind of having a hard time with it, where we can kind of like mastermind and give each other ideas on how to improve that. Any questions on this? Any questions in general?
Zoar, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, send it.
On a Form 41 for a buyer broker service agreement, do you need to fill that out if I am the buyer in the transaction with an unrepresented seller?
It's a good question. Buyer, you're in California or you're
No,
in Washington?
I'm in Washington. Is this more of a state specific? I didn't know if it would apply to
Yeah,
everybody.
I think that's a great question though, and I'd be interested in hearing that. So you're saying you're representing yourself in buying a
Well,
property?
yeah, I mean, I guess I assume that I would be. We just had a Washington call as we go over the NAR settlement and what the ramifications are for that within Washington. We, per law that went into effect on January 1, we have
Hmm.
to have a buyer broker service agreement signed before we can render any real estate services to a potential buyer. but I was curious if I am the buyer, do I have to am I representing myself, or does that just go away since it's myself that I'm doing that since I'm the buyer. I didn't know.
Yeah. So looking at it and applying like the knowing how the military works as well. Um, my guess is like there might be a admin staff that they're gonna have a checklist that says, is there a buyer broker agreement? And it's just a like a literal in the computer checkbox, yes or no. And if it says no, then it's not going to let you proceed. So that's my initial thoughts on it. Um, obviously, if it came to like with what the purpose of that form is for, of like legal protection and stuff, if it came down to it, it's just you against yourself. So it would just like people would be like, oh, he was representing himself. He's not going to like sue himself for not representing himself properly or anything like that. So that'd be my initial thoughts on it. But yeah, definitely talk to your state brokers because a lot of that stuff is going to be state specific. Um, so yeah, does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that, hear
Yeah,
the response to that
I'll
because
reach out. I'll bring it back next week.
okay, sweet. Thanks, Chris. Any other general questions from people?
I got one more question.
All right.
When we are, so again, I'm licensed in Washington. I live in Oregon. When I'm cold calling to California or Florida, for the for sale by owners or the expireds, I've had the question raised a couple of times, how much do you charge for your services? And I don't have a good answer. So I was just curious, with the group, if anyone has been asked that and what your response would be again as a unlicensed agent making those calls.
Any initial responses from anyone in the audience?
I can chime in if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I make calls every day, almost, well, 5 out of 7 days a week. How I try to talk about price is I do everything I can to avoid talking about it over the phone. And I try to bring in how me telling you a percentage is not going to give you the full picture, right? It would be unfair of me to you to give you a percentage without showing you the value that I'm going to bring that comes with that percentage. I try to tie it back to the value that I'm going to bring to them as an agent.
Nice. Thanks.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And something else that I was thinking about as you're saying that, um, the advantages of doing that. Because if you just tell them a number, they might just be shopping you to like find somebody else, but you are literally going to provide much better service than whoever else they're going to go to. So like they're kind of doing a disservice to themselves by just writing you off because you're like, oh, I do 2%. And then they go to the next person, like, hey, this person said they'll do 2%. All right, we'll do 1.75%. And they're missing out on that. And so like if you then like there's so many different layers to it. Like you're also losing out on the opportunity to give them your value proposition and practice that, which will benefit you, but also benefit them by like them being able to see the value that you can provide. And yeah, just a way to like tactfully just figure out like whatever words you or maybe just need to practice it or whatever, but whatever way you can kind of dance around saying a specific number. Um, if it's you that's going to be giving the follow-on presentation, or if it's somebody else, like, oh, we would love to go in detail about the pricing and the different packages that we have available. We just need to set up a meeting to go over that. But yeah, thank you for that, Lonnie.
Thanks.
I do everything I can to avoid letting someone use my information against me. To include not leaving CMAs with sellers that aren't going to sign a listing agreement. I don't leave them with them. You're not my client. You don't get to keep it. That's marketing and business. That's business information that I'm going to use to forward my business. You don't get to keep it unless you're a client.
Those are trade secrets.
Proprietary. That's what I was looking for.
Any other questions? I don't like to drag on meetings for time purposes, but the general theme that I got from that real estate investing conference was the next couple of years are going to be, I wouldn't say challenging, more just interesting times, different types of times, just where it's going to require people to think outside the box and be creative with solving problems, and not just you're not a car salesman where you just like, do you want to buy or do you not want to buy? Do you want to sign for these warranty packages or do you not want to sign for these warranty packages? You're gonna have to be creative with your approach to real estate investing, and same goes for with how you represent your clients and educate your clients. And so there's so many different ways to finance a property. When I was first getting into real estate investing, back in when we bought this condo 2020, I wrote out like kind of my goal sheet, and wrote down like I wanted to acquire one property every year over the next like 15, 20 years. And at the time, I felt like that was a really big, lofty goal. Um, and now, and I have not kept up with that goal, but after going to that conference and hearing so many people that have completely blown that out of the water. They gave a few examples of like somebody that went to some conference that they had just 6 months prior, and within that 6 months had already acquired 4 properties. Because in my mind, it's like you have to buy it with the VA loan, and then you have to wait 12 months at least because you have to intend to live there for 12 months, and then you have to build 20% equity so you can convert it to conventional, so you can buy another property. Like, so that was my mindset on that, and that's why my goals were structured that way. But there's so many different ways of financing properties. Some are high risk, some are low risk, and just all different shapes and sizes. And if you learn about those, it's not only going to benefit you and growing your real estate investing portfolio, but you're also going to be able to pass on that knowledge to your clients. And so the next thing that I'm looking at doing, so we um, bought the house in Kaneohe. So we have this condo in Kailua, and which we bought in March of 2020. We waited until we hit the 2-year mark as an independent contractor, realtor, to have 2 full years of tax returns so that we could qualify to use the VA loan again. Used it again, bought a single family home for $1,064,000, renovating it, putting about 150,000 into it. It'll be worth about 1.3, 1.35 once we're done with it. But we're gonna live in it and then rent out the whole thing, and it's gonna be a 3-bed, 2-bath, and a 2-bed, 1-bath. And but now after, and so my mindset was when we bought that place was still, all right, now I'm gonna do that, own it for like a year, rent it out, and then maybe in 2025 or 2026 look into buying another property. But now I'm like ready to figure out how can I complete that renovation and then look into buying another place like ASAP, because you don't have to wait, a year or 2 years to buy another property. You just gotta ask yourself, how can I purchase this other property, or what other ways can I team up with somebody to continue growing? Because it's just really kind of like with going from your income being capped in the military, it can only grow so fast, to real estate where your income is limitless. It just depends on how smart and how hard you want to work. Same thing with growing your real estate portfolio. It doesn't have to be one property every couple of years or every year. It can be 15, 20, 30 a year, however many you're willing to figure out how to solve the problem to make it happen. That was my general takeaway from that conference. But that's all I've got for today's meeting. Looking forward to hearing from Chris, Brandon, Lonnie, Carlos, and Andrea on your guys' schedules next week, and giving a little more info on my schedule and the approach that I've come to arriving at the schedule that I'm at now. And it's like a continually evolving process. And I'm sure you guys will discover that as well. But hope you guys have a wonderful day. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And that's all I got. Aloha.